Good morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to an extra special Team of the Month edition of Across the Pitch. My name is Phil Kennedy, and I'm joined by co-host Ross Davenport, who is the color commentator for Greenville, as we continue our August Team of the Month series. And today we're very excited to welcome our first Greenville player onto the show. This is a man who's traveled all the way from Sydney, Australia, to Illinois, to South Carolina, and signed with Greenville back in February. Welcome to the show, Lachlan McLean. It's very good to have you with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you signed with Greenville back in February, and we're going to get to that. One of the things I wanted to kind of tell you about our show is, unfortunately, Aaron Ayers, who is one of our co-hosts, was not able to make it today. But Aaron Ayers is actually originally from Australia too, and now lives here in Phoenix, and is one of the founders of the show. And one thing that Aaron has kind of told us is that soccer or football, depending on what you decide to call it, is more popular in Australia than it is in the United States. But I guess rugby and Australian rules football are kind of the king of the hill there. So what was it that drew you to get into football over rugby in the beginning?
It's great to hear there's someone from my side of the pond on over here too. So. But yeah, no, Australia, exactly. Like predominantly, I would say, from the outside looking in, it does look like a very rugby. We have something called Australian Football League, AFL. They do seem like they predominantly run the country. We do have, at this level, though, a lot of people play football. What drew me into it, though, was probably, growing up, my dad has two brothers, and they grew up playing every sport in the book. And my dad's uncle gave me a soccer ball when I was, I think, 9 months old. So I was almost bred into it. I was kicking a ball around from when I was a little boy, and mum and dad tell me about times when I watched, run on doing scissors and step overs at the early World Cup. So it's kind of been with me for as long as I can remember. I always wanted to be something that I wanted to do and play. So it's an absolute pleasure, that I managed to get with Greenville, and I got to continue that dream.
And then now I see that your youth career in Australia is with a club called Manly United. I see that their nickname is the Dolphins. Tell us a little bit about Manly United, because that's a new team for us here on Across the Pitch.
Yeah, so in Australia, the country's broken up into 7 states, and each of those states have something called the National Premier League, and they have levels Division 1, 2, and 3. So any prospective soccer players, generally, if you want to compete and challenge and push yourselves to hopefully maybe get looks into the A-League in Australia, the professional league, they're the leagues that you play in. And Manly United is a team that has age groups from under 11s all the way up to the first grade team. And that's in the men's 1. I've spent pretty much all of my youth outside of a couple of years with that Manly team before I ended up deciding to make my move over to America.
Yeah, Lachlan, I'm always interested to hear about how people come from overseas, to America. Obviously, I know there's companies that, reach out to Australia, England, etc. A lot of the countries to bring college athletes in. How did your move to America come about? Was it something you'd even thought about, as a youth of doing? Obviously, you thought about your path as a soccer player, but yeah, how did you move over here come about?
So yeah, exactly like you said. There's a lot of companies which work in and around different countries overseas to try and bring players over. So I had heard a little bit about it through that. In 2015, early 2015, I did make a trip to Europe. I am fully Australian. Unfortunately, I can't sneak a passport anywhere else in the world. So yeah, I went to Poland and I spent 2 months in a pro environment in a preseason there. And that was a real eye-opener for me that, I wanted to play. But visa restrictions was always something which I knew was going to be going to be a problem, and it was going to make it tough. And pretty much anywhere I went in the world. And my best mate, actually, he's just plays tennis more for recreation, but he told me about America and how, there's the opportunity, especially at the college level, to not only play and look to continue and pursue your dreams to play your sport professionally, but there's also that added incentive that you get your degree done. So that was really appealing to me. I really wanted a new challenge somewhere outside of Australia. I felt like my best opportunity to go pro would be somewhere outside of Australia. And after my experience in Poland, I missed English a lot. So America seemed like it made a lot of sense to get somewhere where I could understand. Even though your accents get me sometimes, I feel like for the most part, I kind of understand what's going on. So after he spent one semester over here and he told me about it, it was a no-brainer, and I did everything I could to get myself over here as soon as I could.
Where was he? Yeah, where was he at school? Were you looked at some other schools other than SIUE?
My trip over here was actually very rushed. I wanted to get over here as soon as I could. So I had it was about a 2-week window in order to get my visa in time to get over here in the January semester. So I spoke with SIUE, I think maybe Cleveland State, and then a team at school out of California. And when I was speaking with the company that brought me over, Ango Sports, they pretty much told me, we can get you more offers and speak to more schools, but you're not going to be able to get over in January. And luckily for me, SIUE was, I heard it was a lot colder than what I was used to in Australia, which it definitely was. But it almost felt like a home away from home. How much I learned and developed as a soccer player and just as a person there was something which, I'll never take for granted. I'll forget.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to ask you about is when you were in Poland, that maybe kind of gave you a taste of the winters you were going to see in Illinois. But so I see that for those who don't know, SIUE is Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And over here in the States, the collegiate soccer season, it really runs through the coldest months of the year. So I wanted to ask you about, what were the challenges playing in a place where it snows as much as Illinois at the college level?
Well, it probably started when I'd wake up and, you get on your phone, check your notifications. But for me, that wasn't really the trend. The trend was I'd wake up, I'd go straight to the weather app, and I'd see what kind of cold I'd be dealing with. To put it in perspective, and a cold Australian winter morning in Sydney is 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And there was days in St. Louis when we were in the negatives in Fahrenheit. So, when I first came over here, I can't say I even owned a winter jacket. So, but, I guess, just like anything, you kind of adapt and get used to it. But I was definitely one of those players who would rock out for training and warm-ups and have as much on as possible.
When Greenville called you up and you checked the weather app and saw the climate in Greenville, that was probably a plus for you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I couldn't wait to get here. Gets the warm weather and the sunshine. It was a lot more like home here.
Before I move on from SIUE, I want to ask you about that. I was digging around last week in my prep. I think I mentioned this briefly in the broadcast, but I was digging around in my prep that you went to SIUE as well as Devin Jamga. Back in 2016, and there was a game I managed to pull up the box score of, was the Wake Forest game, which ended your season in 2016. You started that contest, but also in that game was Ian Harkes, John Harkes' son, Kevin Pollitt's, the former Greenville Triumph player, John Vaquero, who obviously Phil will be very familiar with.
Yeah, very, very familiar with him. Phoenix Rising over here.
It does. It's just a crazy game with the amount of connections between that contest. But what do you remember about that game? That was probably one of the first big games you played in here, I would assume.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Yeah, that's one of those experiences I'll never forget. We'd made a run in the NCAA tournament that no one predicted we would, and when we got to Wake Forest, then the crowd started rolling in, and the atmosphere was just, the atmosphere, especially at SIUE, we did have some games where it got kind of crazy, but that was one of those experiences where, I like you said, I'll never forget. And it just shows what a small world it is too, all of those connections, different teams, which you wouldn't realize at the time. That was that game when I played in it was definitely a step up from anything I had experienced prior. The level of Wake Forest was absolute class. Sometimes, you'd sit there and you'd watch them play footy and you'd think, oh, wait, I'm meant to be playing against these guys, because of the way they move the ball around. So, but yeah, no, that game will long stand in my memory and in terms of college experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least about 2/3 of that Wake Forest team are now in the USL, either League One or the Championship. So, it was an amazing year for them. Obviously, they went on, lost in the final to Stanford, but it was a great run for that Wake Forest side.
And then you were at SIUE from 2016 to 2019. 61 appearances, scored 20 goals. And now this is something we hadn't really haven't gotten into yet. So you're listed as a forward. Do you consider yourself to be kind of a traditional number 9, more of a winger? What do you think is your best position on the pitch?
Yeah, I would. I'm not sure. I would throw myself back to old school Leeds United Mark Viduka kind of striker. Hold the ball up, play people in behind, and just a big brute up top. Yeah.
All right, so you're the textbook number 9 guy. All right, yeah. And then I see that you did between Greenville and college. You made a stop last year. It looks like with Chicago FC United, was it?
Yep, Chicago FC United.
Okay, and they're in the USL League too, correct?
Yes.
All right, and how was that playing with them? I see you got into, was it 7 matches with them last year?
Yeah, that was so I didn't really as an international, you kind of don't really understand the whole PDL USL League 2 system. So that was actually a great experience. John Dawn, who owns the club, does such a great job of looking after everyone there at Chicago. And, I got the opportunity to play with some unbelievable players. You got people like Pat Seagrass, who went in the recent draft to Red Bulls and, has had some features for them, their first team this year. Plenty of players. One of my ex-teammates is now at Portland Timbers too. So there was plenty of players in that program who made it big time, and there's plenty, I'm sure, who will. And that for me was also a great experience, because I love the city of Chicago. My best mate in America actually is a Chicago native, so it worked out great to be able to spend time with him and his family too. But yeah, no, that was again one of those experiences which I don't think I'll ever forget.
Yeah, and it looks like that was a nice stepping stone for you to move up to the pro level in League One. And then, of course, Greenville was a successful club in their inaugural season where they made it all the way to the championship game. And then it looks like in February of 2020 is when you signed with Greenville. And I'm sure, like we already said, you looked at the weather report, you saw that they were in the championship game last year, so they've got a lot of things going for them. Was Greenville the only team you looked at, or were you looking at some other teams back in February?
No, back in February, Greenville was definitely my number one priority. I'd heard a lot about the team and the program and the way everything was run, and I loved everything about it. As you said, the weather was definitely a bonus to get out of that cold, rainy conditions. But the team, the setup here, everything has been just absolutely perfect. I've loved every minute of it. So when push came to shove and, I was given the opportunity to sign that contract, it was a no-brainer for me.
I thought you were going to say they were number one choice because you heard what a great color commentator they had.
Yeah.
Come on now.
So Ross, I know that last year you had been talking to me about how Greenville was kind of short up front, so it must have been exciting for you to see a striker of Lachlan's capability sign back in February.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year, Jake Keegan was doing so well until he hurt himself at the one Greenville game that I went to live, of course. But then we signed JJ Donnelly as well, luckily just before that. So we had a sort of not like for like replacement, but JJ, is pretty capable of playing center forward. But yeah, when they signed Lachlan, it's one of those guys. Obviously, I had to go back and watch a bit of tape on, and he impressed in the highlight reel, which it seems like every player has a highlight reel on YouTube now. So it's nice and easy for us to sort of go and see what's coming. He's a very, strong strong on the ball and very, very two-footed. Lachlan, talk about how much you've learned from working with Jake, who's obviously been a pro, abroad as well, and has come back here to the USA and really made a mark.
Yeah, no, Jake's one of those guys who you would very lucky to have in your team. As you said, he has a lot of experience, and he's a well-established and has a lot of accolades as a pro. So yeah, the first, especially in quarantine, being able to just pick his brains as much as I can and learn from him to help develop myself, to hopefully develop a career myself as he has been one of the things which I've really wanted to do. As you said, he's a great player. And I mean, you can tell by the start of this year what a great start to the year he's had. My role is just to do as much as I can to help the team, and learn as much as I can from him.
Well, let's talk about the goal on Saturday. Obviously, you get your first assist. It was sort of a bit of a scramble. Did you see JJ out the corner of your eye and just try to get it over to him? That's what it looked like on the replay, anyway. That you sort of saw him over there in a bit more space and flicked it over to him, or were you trying to shoot? I know you'll say the assist was on purpose, but
no. So yeah, when that cross came in, I had front row seats to watch Jay head that ball. I actually thought he'd scored straight away. So when it popped back up again, and I controlled it on my chest, I just thought I was in too awkward of a position to try and get the shot off myself, and I knew Jay was there after the header, so. Jay, as we've talked about, is quite an accomplished player himself and a great goal scorer. So when I knew he was there and I knew the shot would be tough for me, it was, again, a no-brainer just to play the ball across to him, and he put it in the back of the net and gave us the 3 points, which was great.
Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest of assists, I'm sure you remember. I think technically, though, it was a very good one because you were definitely in a lot of traffic. And had to make sure you got enough contact on it. It was a great finish by JJ as well. But somebody who wasn't in the box at that point was Jake Keegan. Now, I just got off the phone with John Harkes before this call, and I asked him if he'd watched the replay. But I don't know if you saw Jake standing there outside of the box, just sort of looking at everybody, what was going on in the 6-yard box. Pumped his fist at the first header, which was well saved by Hauer, and then just sort of in relief turned around. He was obviously out of gas. He'd run his arse off for 90 minutes, but I certainly hope you guys gave him some grief about where he was standing at that point, being
no. We actually, when we watched it back on film, we watched the goal and went through the highlights, and someone pointed out, someone's like, "Hang on, what's Jake doing?" And you just see him do his celebration. It was awesome. But the thing is, the goal wouldn't have happened if Keegan didn't get in a position to bring the ball down and play Caesar through.
Play Caesar
at the beginning of the play. So. His impact in that play was definitely not forgotten.
Yeah, I know a lot of them were still feeling the Madison match, obviously, as well, and the travel involved in that. Talk about, obviously, John Harkes, I'm sure was a big reason you came to Greenville. Yeah, I don't know how much people know about John Harkes in Australia, but I'm sure you've done your research. And I mean, I know I've heard stories about how amazing it is to work with him and what a coach he is, but just talk a bit about your time so far with him.
Yeah, no, my time with Coach John has been, it's hard to put into words, as you said. He's someone who pushes you to be the best you can be on and off the field. Very personable. So, if you've ever got anything you need to bring with him, he's always available for you. But yeah, as a footballer, I've loved it. He's obviously very accomplished himself, and I mean, even on the managerial side of things, you can see how well he's done with teams. So for me, when the opportunity came up, I had to jump at it, and every day I can feel myself developing and learning as a player under him. It's one of those things where I'll look back in 10 years' time, and I'm sure the influence he had over me this year and maybe more years to come will definitely shape my career moving forward.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and this is kind of maybe going back to a little bit what we were talking about earlier, but it sounds like with SIUE and now obviously coming on to Greenville that you've had a great experience so far with coming over to the U.S. So I'm assuming that if there was other young footballers over in Australia that were kind of on the same career path as yourself, that this is something you'd recommend to them to come over to the States and play their college ball and get a degree.
No, 100%. Yeah, I going into it myself, I knew absolutely nothing about what it was going to be like and what was going to happen. I just kind of took a leap of faith. But it's something, if my sons grow up or my daughters grow up and they want to play soccer, I will recommend it highly to them and recommend it highly to any of my friends and family over in Australia. I get messages all the time from people who I used to play with or I've been in and around soccer, and whenever they ask me about it, I have nothing but good words to say. It's I think the way that America uses college to allow people to get a degree at the same time is very important. Because soccer will end someday, and it's always important to have that degree. And then I also think the pathway to pro here is great. It gives people from anywhere in the world a really good opportunity to be able to play professionally and live out their dreams. And I'm one of those lucky ones that has had the opportunity to be able to do it. So no, it's definitely something where when I'm even now, but I'm sure more so when my career is over, I'll be pushing for a lot of Australians to come over here to hopefully get the national team a bit more success.
Well, that's awesome because it's really encouraging to hear that because and Ross will know this where so many years U.S. soccer and the sport we've always kind of been a country where we've been the butt of the joke when it comes to soccer, if you will. And it really it does speak to how much the game has grown over the past 2 decades here. And I know that Ross, you've witnessed that firsthand.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, obviously the USL has played a big role in that. I think we've got a great setup now, especially how League One is growing. We may grow even more over the next couple of years, I think. And it's just having that availability to say, if I go to college, if I don't go to college, it doesn't really matter. This is how I can get to be a pro soccer player. And obviously, the opportunity is open as well for a lot of the foreign players to come in here and make an impact. Lachlan, what's your status at the moment? Do you count as a foreign roster player spot on Greenville, or have you been here long enough now to sort of get the green card process going? I'm not sure how that's working.
There's a funny joke that rolls around with the internationals. It's quite hard to get a green card here. Almost at some point you'd say impossible. Everyone always jokes about, you got to find yourself a nice American girl and put a ring on the finger to get that citizenship. For me,
that's even a long process now, though, as well.
Yeah, that's definitely something which is not in my agenda right now. So I am rostered as an international player right now.
Okay, well that's a big deal, obviously, because each team only gets a certain amount of roster spots. To put faith in somebody of an international slot, somebody coming fresh out of college like you, that shows exactly how much faith they had in you. I asked John Harps this question earlier. Did you get many texts yesterday when Greenville got the shout out on the Champions League broadcast?
Yeah, a bunch of my mates back home were, that again, even with me over here, they still don't really understand too much about the league and everything that's going on. But they'd message me and they'd say exactly like you said. They'd be like, "Did they just talk about your team in the Champions League?" I laughed about it and I was like, "Yeah, they did." Maybe one day that'll be Greenville in there.
So they were. I wasn't sure whether they were getting the American feed down there in Australia, because I know obviously each country sometimes has their own commentating crews. But so obviously they were getting the CBS feed, and yeah, John said the same thing. He was doing something else. He wasn't listening. He was watching it, but didn't have the sound down because he was on a call, and his phone just started blowing up. People saying, "Oh, I just mentioned you on the Champions League game," which I thought, yeah, that's probably the last thing you guys would ever hear. That's awesome.
I respect, yeah, but I mean, awesome nonetheless. I mean, I learned something myself. I didn't realize that Atlanta and Greenville shared a relationship as they do. So city-wise.
Now, who do you room with at Greenville?
So I'm in a house with Noah Pilato and Harry Hawkins.
Oh, okay. So three of you, the new guys on the team, has obviously one Englishman and an American and an Australian. It must be a fun house to be in at certain times, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, I always tell Harry how much better Australia is than England.
Cricket, maybe.
Yeah, I try to stay away from soccer because obviously we don't stand a bar compared to them. But yeah, no, it's always fun, living in a team, living with your teammates, especially when you come from different places, because everyone has different tendencies and different cultural things which you do. So it's always fun to just joke around with each other and laugh. And I guess you definitely learn some stuff along the way too.
All right, I do have the traditional Australian questions because obviously being from England, I know a little bit more about Australia than some Americans do. As growing up, were you an Aussie Rules fan, a Union fan, or a League fan?
Growing up, I would say I was a League fan. Growing up, I actually one of the professional teams, the Manly Seagulls. I did from grade 5 to grade 12. My school was literally a street away from the ground. So we used to do stuff where we do running events around the outside of the field. So I definitely would say I was a League fan growing up.
Home and away or neighbours? See, Phil won't even understand that question. So only a few.
I've heard enough conversations to kind of halfway pick up what some of it means, but yeah.
if
I can tell you all about NASCAR though.
Oh, those both of them. I would say I've watched some, and even though they are national treasures, it's not really a bit of me. Bit too soap opera for me.
I could definitely respect that. And then obviously Vegemite, yes or no? I'm a big Marmite fan. I've tried to get my kids into it, and neither of them are having any of that. But what's your opinion on Vegemite?
It's always funny. I absolutely love Vegemite. I'm one of those guys that can eat it by the spoon if I really wanted to. But the best part about Vegemite would have to be sharing it with people of other, especially Americans.
I was going to ask if your roommates have been exposed to. Well, Harry probably knows what Marmite is, obviously. So, but have you got Noah into it?
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a bar of it. He looks at me like I'm eating dog food. But you get used to that reaction. I mean, I think in my time in America, I've only actually ever met one American that does like it, and the only way he likes it is if I toasted the bread, bit of butter, a bit of Vegemite, and then some fresh tomatoes on top. That was the only way.
Oh, I've never tried that one. I like it with cream cheese. I've never tried tomatoes though.
It's if you put one or two fresh tomatoes on top of your piece, I guarantee you it's unbelievable.
So have you found
like something? I was just gonna say, I think it sounds like something that your dog would get, like fleas, ticks, and Vegemites.
Is there anywhere in Greenville to get it, Lachlan? Or have you just been sort of ordering it online, or is there any in the house at the moment?
So luckily, I've actually got a lot at the house right now. Luckily my parents, my loving family, send over a care package every now and then. And
awesome.
Vegemite is definitely one thing always on the shopping list to send over.
Good stuff.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show with us today, Lachlan. And before we wrap up, what we like to always ask, was there anything that we hadn't asked you about, or anything that you wanted to talk about today that we hadn't so far?
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, no, I appreciate you guys getting me on, and hopefully it's another huge 3 points for us this week. It's up the table.
Yeah, big game Saturday against Chattanooga. They could have almost been even closer. Their game against Omaha was in unspectacular fashion cancelled last night, or postponed, I should say, due to the fact that there was a lightning delay. But Chattanooga does not have lights, so they didn't end up being able to finish the game. I thought maybe they would play it this morning, but it appears that Chattanooga, quite smartly knowing that they have Greenville on Saturday, decided to postpone it for another day. But yeah, big game on Saturday. First game on local TV in Greenville. It'll be on the CW62, so that's super exciting. Obviously, the first game this season that fans will be attending as well, so it'll be great to see some people in the crowd. I'm not sure how many we'll see, but yeah, super exciting.
Yeah, no, we definitely can't wait. I had one little experience with the fans in the Charleston Battery game, and then again when we played Charlotte Independence in preseason, early preseason. But I'm super excited just to see fans get out and just to hear them, because I'm sure for us it's definitely going to give us a lift and help us play as best as we can to get that win.
Yeah, you certainly impressed some people in preseason because you come sort of a cult hero among some of the Reedy River Riot guys. So hopefully it'll pop up on Saturday. Maybe we'll get the Reedy River Riot Leap going again, or the Legacy Leap, I should say, which Cole Sadler started last year. And then obviously, unfortunately, he's retired. So we need somebody else to take up that mantle. But obviously with social distancing, I don't want to encourage that. Like,
yeah,
we'll take a goal. We'll take a goal regardless.
Maybe the Reedy Leap, but just at home. Just after the game at home, everyone can do it simultaneously.
There you go.
Well, very exciting stuff to have fans back in the stands again for the first time. I know you got to be looking forward to that. And I've got the Together We Triumph scarf hanging up my wall here, so I will be rooting for you on Saturday against Chattanooga. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the show, Lachlan. We wish you great luck with your future career, and good luck to the Triumph.
Appreciate it, guys. Cheers. And
cheers.
Have a good one. Bye.